All right, we can go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome everybody to AgriCapture Stakeholder Engagement Meeting for our Latin American expansion of the Rice Methane Reduction Project. This the focus of this presentation will be stakeholders in Argentina, Paraguay, and throughout the rest of Latin America. We have provided translation services for this webinar. If you look at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you can toggle back and forth between channels. If you'd like to listen in Spanish, you can click the Spanish channel and hear the presentation simultaneously in Spanish. Uh, Before we get started, we have a short video we'd like to show that features some farmers from our U.S. program.
Biggest challenge we're facing right now is loss of market opportunity. Inflation drove up all of our costs for pretty much parts, repairs, all of the new equipment. That's our biggest challenge right now, lower markets and higher prices for our inputs. There's nothing we can do except keep making yield.
Then you got to figure out a way to either produce more on the same acre or find a way to differentiate yourself. And like AgriCapture is taking, what would just be normal rice and differentiating it to where it's at, a premium. And, that's a way that, we can fight some of those challenges.
So thinking about AgriCapture and the potential to grow premium rice for an IP market, enter into potential Scope 3 agreements or the carbon market, it just opened a new revenue stream for the farm. But when you're able to do it on enough acres and scale it on your farm, it really adds up to some nice additional income that we're able to bring into the farm for just doing the right thing environmentally.
We were, experimenting with row rice, and it was a small, minute part of the farm at that point. So we said, well, why not? And so we did, and it worked great. And so the next year, we were able to increase our row rice acres. Then we just grew from there. And now, we're 100%. 100% of our rice acres are with AgCapture, and it's totally changed my bottom line.
Like AgriCapture, they help out because margins are tight, and this is an extra source of revenue that you can count on by doing these practices. And it makes, growing rice, more viable to our operation.
The revenue generated from the carbon credits has been a huge benefit for our operation. So pretty much it's got us into a situation where we're advancing forward with the row rice. The revenue stream is there because of the carbon credits. I can't see any reason that we would go backwards on this and go back to raising paddy rice.
We've taken this land and developed it and made it better, more efficient, and more, more environmentally sustainable in the long run. And so that was kind of our goal, what we're moving toward.
Great. So now that we've heard from farmers in the program, I'd like to talk a little bit about AgriCapture. First, I'll introduce myself. My name is Ashton Moody. I'm the director of product at AgriCapture. I'm in charge of acre expansion and our international expansion efforts as well. My background is not on a farm. I didn't grow up on a farm, but grew up in the Southeast United States around a lot of agriculture. Don't hold it against me, but I'm an accountant by trade and was working at an audit and assurance firm when ESG and sustainability reportings gained a lot of momentum around 2020. I got interested in climate finance and carbon accounting, and when I met with AgriCapture, I saw a really cool nexus between these innovative climate financing mechanisms and the ability to bring new markets into rural communities and agriculture communities. I thought it was a great combination of like innovative finance with innovative farming practices. So since then, it's been great. I've been here about a year and a half, but AgriCapture has been here since 2021. Started as a part of a farmland investment company in the United States that focused on trying to create new opportunities for their tenant farmers through the carbon markets. They looked at all the available carbon programs out there, thought that they could create a better one for themselves, and created AgriCapture. So AgriCapture is a US-based project developer that helps farmers, ranchers, and landowners monetize sustainable practices through agriculture carbon credits and value chain interventions. We're going to talk about our US project on the next slide, but wanted to quickly, you know, say that we've realized through our work in the U.S. that having a local presence in the area is critical to a successful project. So when we looked to international expansion, we knew that we needed to find partners outside of the U.S. in these regions to work with. So we're going to be partnering with local implementation partners in each region that we go into to help enroll growers, provide agronomic support, be there to answer questions about the program. So to date, we're partnered with two implementation partners, NatCap Sustainable Solutions out of Brazil and Upchar in Argentina. We're really excited about those partnerships as we move into new regions. Could evaluate new partners as well, but really feel like they can help bring our innovative solutions to Latin America. So the U.S. project, we started on 3 rice fields in 2021. We're one of two project developers that have been issued carbon credits to date for regenerative agriculture. We started on those 2 rice fields, and we wanted to improve our practices. We wanted to be very farmer friendly. This doesn't work if the economics are not aligned correctly for farmers. So did the proof of practice on the 2 rice fields, and since then we've scaled up to 16,000 hectares in our last verification. We've had 70,000 carbon credits issued, and in 2025 we project that we'll be on 60,000 hectares and are reaching 172 growers. So really great positive feedback from growers in our program. It's working for them, and we've brought new markets to growers across the Southeast United States. These rice projects are viewed very favorably in the voluntary carbon market for a couple reasons. So, one being people would love to support regenerative agriculture and agriculture. Second is that we're targeting a specific greenhouse gas here, methane. So it's a very potent greenhouse gas. So there's a lot of buyers that have goals that are specific to addressing methane. So this project aligns perfect with that. There's also a great water savings with our practices. So there's water co-benefits, and also there's some nutritional co-benefits with inorganic arsenic uptake rates declining. So, the project's been viewed very favorably by buyers, but also we received an A rating from B0 Carbon, which is a rating agency that goes out and evaluates carbon projects to decide, what's their quality, do they stand up to the rigorous standards. We received the A rating, and it puts us in the top 10% of all projects on their platform. So definitely higher quality project in the voluntary carbon market. So what is the voluntary carbon market? So voluntary carbon market is a global demand-driven marketplace where companies and individuals can purchase carbon credits to offset emissions from their operations. So one carbon credit represents a ton of emissions either reduced or removed from the atmosphere. So these are not new markets. They've been around since the early 2000s. However, the carbon markets gained a lot of momentum in the last 10 years as corporates set GHG reduction goals, a lot of them targeted 2020, 2030 and beyond to get to net zero. So there's buyers out there that want to buy these credits. We think that that's an important thing to highlight, is that these are not government funded programs. These are sold on a marketplace for carbon credits. So we think that is crucial to the success of the program long term, that we have buyers, and we're seeing a lot of interest from the market right now in these credits. So we've sold credits to some of the most discerning buyers in the market. Here's a list of companies that purchase carbon credits here as an example. Okay, so we've talked about market mechanisms and project structure. So what does it mean for a grower? If you're enrolled in our program, you can generate an annual revenue stream for implementing sustainable irrigation practices. This is a demand-driven market, so prices will fluctuate year over year. But last year, our U.S. growers on average received about $50 per hectare in annual revenue. Growers in our program sign one-year contracts where they commit to performing the improved irrigation practice and then can decide after that year if they want to re-up and move forward with the program or if they would like to exit the program. It's also important to highlight that there's no cost to participate and no minimum or maximum hectarage enrollment requirements. Once you get in our program, you can participate for up to 21 rice growing seasons. So gaining that annual revenue stream for 21 years. And then we're certain that we definitely want this to work for your operation. Once you have all the agronomic information you need available. So we're going to provide agronomic support to you on how to implement the improved irrigation practice. So what is the improved irrigation practice? At a high level, if you do a practice on your farm that is more environmentally friendly from a greenhouse gas emissions perspective than all your neighbors, you've created an environmental asset on your farm. The practice change that we are going to target here in this program is alternate wetting and drying. So why is rice such a good candidate for carbon credits? That's due to the flooded environment that conventional rice fields are grown in. This flooded environment creates a great ecosystem for microbes that produce methane to grow. And so when fields are flooded, methane is being released from the fields. The interventions in our program seek to introduce oxygen back into the soil to kill off those microbes. So alternate wetting and drying at least twice during the growing season, farmers are going to reduce the flood on their field to below 10 centimeters below the soil surface and then reflood their field and then do it again. You're alternating between a flooded environment and a dry environment. So what are the benefits of AWD? We've talked about it, carbon credit revenue through our program. There's also a 40% water reduction possible in some fields, methane emission reductions of nearly 50%. And as I mentioned earlier, we've seen a decrease in inorganic arsenic uptake in the grain as well. So for eligibility, a critical part of the carbon market is that a buyer of the carbon credit wants to be sure that they incentivize the practice change that generated the credits. So that means that if you're an early adopter and you've been performing AWD for the past 10 years, this is unfortunately not going to be the correct program for you. This program is for fields that are implementing AWD for the first time when they sign up in the carbon project. If you are an early adopter, there are some other programs out there happy to work with you to find ways to monetize your grain, but this is for new fields to AWD. Another important eligibility requirement is that fields must have been in crop production for the last 10 years. There could be fallow years in it, but basically we need to ensure that native ecosystems have not been cleared in order to participate in the carbon program. Enrollment, like I mentioned, no cost to enroll and no limited or maximum number of hectares that can be enrolled. In order to participate in the program, you'll sign a contract with AgriCapture. So annual contract where you're assigning the rights to the carbon. As I mentioned earlier, if you do the improved practice, you're creating an environmental asset. You're assigning the rights to that environmental asset to AgriCapture, and we'll take that and go develop carbon credits and go sell it. The carbon contract will also establish a revenue sharing agreement, so you're going to get revenue in return for participating in the program. So where's the project located? As I mentioned at the beginning of the call, this is a Latin American project. Our first activities are going to take place in Rio Grande do Sul, Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, but we have the ability to expand this program outside of these borders. So all of Central and South America are eligible. If you're in these regions, definitely reach out to us and we'll get you in touch with our local implementation partners to get the project started. So what are the responsibilities of a grower in the program? First is just to enroll. You have to fill out the enrollment survey. That's going to require providing maps of your fields and some basic agronomic data. And then you have to sign the contract that we already mentioned with AgriCapture. Once you get enrolled, then it's really just completing your improved irrigation practice. So completing that dry down where you dry down the water levels at least twice during the growing season. And then at the end of the growing season, you'll be asked to complete an attestation where we collect a few more data points like yield and some information about the dry down. And that's it. We really want this to be a low touch program for the growers. So, we'll collect everything we need from you through those touch points. We know that your full-time job is not submitting data to AgriCapture. So what are the implementation partner at AgriCapture's responsibilities? First and foremost is to provide agronomic support before and during the project. This doesn't work if AWD hurts your yield and there's yield decline. So I want to ensure that you have all the information available so that you can successfully implement the practice. AWD is a very safe practice, and is in our U.S. program, we've had no impact on yield. We just want to make sure that it's done correctly. And once it's done correctly, you want to make sure that the farmer can be successful. The other piece of this that AgriCapture will take care of is the project monitoring, measuring, and reporting. So we'll do all the reporting, we'll do the calculations, how much emissions are saved in your fields. We'll make sure that all the reporting requirements of the voluntary carbon market are met. And the most important part of the AgriCapture work is confirming that the practices that we say happen in the project actually happen. So we'll have to verify that the dry down events happen. We can use a few different approaches to this. So we'll use remote sensing, looking at a satellite, seeing when there's water on the field. We also can use a photo application, so taking a picture of the dry down events and tagging it to AgriCapture, sending it to us so we'll know when and where the dry down events occurred. Also, we can use water sensor data. So if you have water sensors on your field, we can see like when and where the dry down events occurred. And then in limited circumstances, we can use grower attestation. So we really use a combination of approaches. We want to meet growers where they're at from an IT and data perspective, and want to make sure that we're building rigorous verification documentation. And then lastly, once we generate the carbon credits, we'll market and sell them. AgriCapture is a full-time team dedicated to sales of carbon credits. And then once we sell the credits, benefit sharing back to the grower. So revenue share could vary a little bit based on geography, based on project costs there. However, we want to ensure that the grower receives the majority of the revenue. So please reach out to your local implementation partner to learn about what the local revenue share rate is. So project timelines. So what does it look like for a typical enrollment cycle in AgriCapture's project? So right now, around planning or before planning, you'll sign the contract with AgriCapture, get enrolled. You go out to the field, start doing the improved practice, and we'll begin developing the project. So we'll collect data through that enrollment survey. We'll also be collecting verification data through our monitoring procedures. And then at the end of the growing season, we'll collect the year-end attestation. So after harvest, we'll go into what's called a validation and verification period. This is essentially a third-party audit that's required to come in and look at our work and make sure that we met all the requirements of the voluntary carbon market protocols. And once the verification is completed, we'll be issued the carbon credits, and then we'll go sell the carbon credits in the market. During this time, you can decide whether or not you would like to resume with AgriCapture. You can sign the contract again. You can expand your acres and re-enroll for the second growing season. The other piece of this I want to mention is the site visits. So site visits could be a requirement of the verification process. Typically, there are samples that are selected during the verification procedures. So there's a chance that we could come to your field and have the auditor ask questions. Usually these are pretty low touch, less than an afternoon. But we'll make sure that it works with your schedule if you get selected, and we'll make sure you have all the information you need to successfully complete the site visit. Okay, so who are all the project stakeholders here? So we've identified a few. Primarily rice growers are the main stakeholders because these projects are happening on land that they either own or lease, and they're occurring due to activities that happen on the farm. So A lot of the benefits here, we're talking about the additional revenue stream from carbon credits, increase agronomic support from AgriCapture and the implementation partners. You're going to save water due to the reduced water in the practices. It's going to help your farm. Some of the risk, as we've highlighted, AWD is safe. We've not seen it decrease yield, but we want to make sure that's done right. So we highly recommend growers start on a subset of their fields in year one. Make sure you're comfortable with the practice before scaling it up. That way that we don't see a yield decline. And then, this may be a more labor-intensive irrigation practice, right? Like you're going to go out, you're going to monitor your field, so it could be some increased labor costs there. Other potential stakeholders we've identified would be producer associations or ag co-ops. Opportunities here, we can see some strengthening relationships between you and your growers, providing some agronomic support there. We also want to see this as a future opportunity for partnership between the project and the co-ops. We want to incentivize practices change on as many rice fields in the region as possible. So your cooperation could be very helpful here. Local governments really just getting benefits from the project. There's going to be less demands on water in your region due to the reduction on the farm level, and then also these projects can help contribute to national water GHG goals. And then, broadly, everyone in their project region is going to benefit from less water use. So, want to highlight here, this is this is not going to impact any property rights of the farm. These are one-year contracts that don't have encumbrances. You're not assigning over your property. You're assigning over a carbon right that was generated from the improved practice. So, no risk to property rights here. And then want to flag that this presentation is agnostic of country, but in all cases, local laws will supersede any project requirements. We'll never ask you to do anything that contradicts local laws. We'll do due diligence, and we've done due diligence in each country. We can provide a list of laws to consider for each country that we're going into upon request through our implementation partner. But I do want to say that projects activities cannot be included if they are required by law. So for instance, if Argentina next year decides to mandate AWD in Argentina, then Argentina fields will be excluded from the project. That's not the case. That's not the case currently, and we don't foresee that to be the case in the future. But it's just it just gets back to that point where buyers in the carbon market must be confident that their finance has incentivized the practice change. So if it's required by law, it wouldn't be eligible for participation. So here's some references. We've cited sources throughout this presentation where we talk about improved irrigation practices or AWD. So we'll send this out afterwards, and you can look over the references if that's of interest. Okay, so that's all I have for the project overview. I really appreciate you listening, and we're going to now open it up for some Q&A. We had question options in the enrollment survey, so we'll start there with a few questions we received from the enrollment survey. Yeah, and you can submit Q&A through the chat below. So, yes. Okay. So here's one of the questions from the enrollment link. From your perspective, how long could it take to raise awareness among producers and get them to join nationwide in the country? I think I'll use our US project as an example. It really took a proof of concept before we started to scale it up. Growers had to trust that we could deliver on our promises. We started on 3 fields, got carbon credits generated there, and got revenue to the grower, and then they started talking about it amongst each other. And so from there, we moved from 3 fields to 60,000 hectares this year. So I would expect that same model to be able to be replicated in Argentina, Paraguay, Brazil, based on word of mouth. Like AgriCapture is successful here. We want growers in Latin America to have a great experience as well. And then this is a good question. So what happens if I stop farming the field in the future, or if I need to go back to flood irrigation? Can I exit the program? Yeah, absolutely. We offer 1 year contracts. After the first year, if you're not pleased with the program, or you're not farming a piece of land anymore, you're not required to keep that in our program. You can exit with zero penalty. I'll also flag that while we want to monitor monocropping, we don't want our program to incentivize monocropping. We do not dictate what crop rotations you do. That's strictly up to your farm management plan. So you're not bound to only plant rice if you participate in the program. And then what if carbon credits are worth more in the future than today? Yeah, so in the presentation, we gave that $50 per hectare rate to the farmer. That was based on our US prices, but absolutely, we're very confident in the price of carbon. We expect the price of carbon to go up as we near 2030 and beyond. So as prices improve, you also can participate in the price of appreciation because we're on a strict revenue share. So it's best for the grower, best for the project. So absolutely, your year 5 price might be higher than year 1 price. So good, definitely great to point out. All right, and then it's like we got some coming into the chat. Sorry about that. Could you explain a little bit more about how remote sensing is used for MMRV? Yes. So remote sensing will use satellite imagery where we'll basically get water sensor bands, moisture bands for the fields. It's really important that we know where each of the fields are located. That way we can know where to look, and we'll look at the water levels of the fields over time through the satellite imagery and determine where the drawdown events occurred. And then the follow-up to that was that this requirement is to plant rice specifically or other agriculture crops in the previous 10 years. So is for the 10-year requirement is any agriculture crop. We just have to ensure that it wasn't cleared of native ecosystems. So, even if there's a fallow year in there, it's fine. We just want to ensure that it is a cropping ground. And then minimum surface area and method of verification or monitoring for AWD. So minimum surface area, no minimum requirements. We can work on 2-hectare field or 100-hectare field. And then method of verification. If you have water sensor data, it'd be great to use that. We can interface in with your system, or you can send it to us manually. If not, we can do a satellite imagery. So we really want to meet growers where they're at from a data perspective. Let's see. Anything else we'd like to hit on while we're here? Yeah, I can talk a little bit more about the agronomy support. So we have a agronomy packet that has been reviewed by local agronomists in each of our project regions and translated to local language that can be used as like a starting point for how to do AWD. That'll describe, what cultivars to use. That will describe when the dry downs should occur. You can't do it before 21 days into the cycle, or you'll lose some of your inputs. And that'll be given to you upon interest in the program. After that, if there's any questions that come up, we can get you in touch with agronomists that can help answer any questions you have. We need the growers to be successful in this program when implementing AWD. Here's another question. Is there a limitation regarding leveling of the farms? In a best case scenario, you have a zero grade field that is easy to monitor water levels. But really, if you're, really if you're able to monitor water on your field and pull it off easily, then your field will be eligible. And that's all outlined in the agronomy packet, along with considerations of soil characteristics. Some soil types are going to be better suited for AWD than others. I have doubts about the industry. Here's a question for the rice industry. Is there any proposal for carbon credits with rice husk from the industry? Yeah, it's a great question. And our friends are an implementation partner at Upchar would probably love to talk to you about this, but this program is specifically targeting producers and on-farm practices. However, there is opportunity for carbon credits outside of this program from like biochar and husk from the industry. So love to get you in touch with Upchar there. And another from an industry and mill perspective, right? Like we are getting growers in our network to implement improved irrigation practices that can be monetized through maybe supply chain intervention programs in the future. That's how we work in the U.S. is we sell data to the highest and best use customers. So if that's offset market or if that's a scope 3 intervention, that we would go that route. So this program really starts to help transition growers from your network into an improved irrigation practice that can create some different market opportunities in the future for mills, while being cautious of double counting, right? Like you can only sell an asset into one of the two markets annually. Anything else? Okay. Well, if that's all we have, if that's all we had today, I really appreciate everyone's time. This is going to be recorded. It'll be posted on our website. So if you want to go back to it and consult, or if there's other stakeholders that you think should hear it, we'll be able to provide them the link. I really look forward to bringing this opportunity to Latin America and working with growers in the region. So if you're interested, you can reach out to the email address on the screen or one of our implementation partners, and we'll make sure that you get connected and get signed up. But really appreciate your time today, and happy to answer any questions after this call as they come up. But hope everyone has a great day and a great growing season.